Hello, and welcome to the podcast, It's a Matter of Life and Death, a podcast by Annie Anderson and the Energy Medicine Clinic. One where we look to support, align, guide, and empower conversations that are tricky, passionate, and emotional about life and death. Thanks for joining us. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the studio. It's Annie from the Energy Medicine Clinic. I am joined today by Kelly Brown, a very special guest out of Oklahoma. She is the owner of Rose Colored Lens Photography. You can find her on Facebook. And I had a friend share one of her posts last week, and it really struck me. And so I reached out to Kelly and I said, hey, I would really like to talk to you on my podcast. And so here we are. So please welcome Kelly Brown to the studio. Are you there?
Thank you.
Yes, very good. Hi.
Yes. Hi.
This is great. I love what I saw. And so for those of you that don't really know what it is that I saw, it was a post that you had shared about bereavement photos. And
Yes.
before we get into that, tell me about your business. Tell me more about you. What do you want everybody to know about what you do? How did you get here?
Well, I started out just wanting to do photography. I did actually wedding makeup for like 7 years. And so I had a lot of relationships with other photographers and other vendors in the wedding world. And I don't know, they just kind of encouraged me to pick up a camera. And so I did. And I did very normal photography sessions prior. I accidentally got into bereavement photography when I was trying to find someone who wanted to do birth photography with me.
Right.
I felt really drawn to that. I don't know, any kind of emotion-filled room, the art that you can make and the type of emotion you can capture is just, I think, really cool. And I really wanted to do that. And so I had someone reach out to me. They were on a fertility journey, so it took them a few tries to have a pregnancy and keep the pregnancy. And so throughout all these months, they're sharing all of this with me, and, I'm cheering her on, and I'm sending love to her when things aren't going her way and all of this stuff. And so we communicate with each other for almost a year at this point. And she gets pregnant and it sticks. And they find out it's a boy. And it's, I'm so happy for her. And she's going to, she's giving me all this information. We plan to have a meeting to kind of discuss what her expectations are and what types of shots does she want that are important to her, all of those things.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I don't hear from her anymore.
How far into her pregnancy at this point?
I think, it was still very early, but we missed the meeting. So she was, I want to say, around 20 weeks pregnant or so.
Okay.
She had planned her baby shower and everything, and we had a meeting, and then it just, it didn't happen. And so I just kind of left it because I'm not going to be gross and just be like, hi,
right.
Remember me?
Sure.
So, and also I don't know if something happened, I don't want to be the one to remind her that something devastating is going on. So I just left it alone. And then randomly I think it was 8 p.m. and her friend messaged me on Facebook, and she was like, I know you were planning on doing her birth photography. He is going to be born tonight. Is that still something that you want to do? And I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. I can throw together all of my things and, get there. Just let me know when. And then she was like, there's been a lot of issues. I just want you to know that it's going to be a stillbirth.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, okay. And, in that moment, I just thought, I can't say no, like
Yeah,
I've
that's
personally never been through that, but I can empathize, and I can't even imagine, So
wow.
I was like, okay, yeah. And like the whole time I'm just trying to, I don't know, kind of psych myself up like, all right, you can do this. Like you're about to see some things that you can never unsee. Like this experience is going to change your life forever.
Yes.
Are you ready? And I was like, no, but we're going to do it. Like it's going to be great. And I was terrified. I mean, I was driving up there and I was already crying. Like
I can
I'm such a
imagine.
ball bag anyway. It's so devastating. I don't know her personally, or I do now, but I didn't then. And, I have no ties to her whatsoever. So I was just like, oh my gosh, like she's about to be in a moment and I'm going to be like intruding on that, and she's not going to be worried about me and what I'm doing as much as she is just trying to grapple with what's going on,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also know that it's important that I get these moments because these are it.
That's
This is
it.
it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine having a doctor tell you, like, you have so many hours with your baby
And that's
and
it.
then you'll never see them again?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think, wow, that's crazy to even try to fathom.
I know this sounds like a cliche question, but were you sitting down at the time when this friend called you? Like, was it a big physical reeling shock?
I was sitting down. I was sitting
Thankfully.
down,
Yeah.
thankfully, because
Yeah.
I think I would have fallen if I wasn't. I literally remember just laying back. I was sitting on my bed and I laid back and I was like, "Oh my God, like
Yeah. And
this
how
is
do you respond
crazy."
appropriately and quickly and without, whatever in your
Right.
voice that's going
And
to upset them? And yeah, I can
I
imagine that would be
probably just
massive.
stumbled and blabbed. I don't even remember, to be honest. I was just like,
Yeah.
"Yes, yes, like yes, of
Of
course I
course.
will."
Of
Like
course. Yeah.
so, I'm freaking out trying to prep on how am I going to do this and how do you remain professional during something like this, what even is that? Is that even something that's
Yes.
necessary? I don't know,
You're
but I
human.
got in there, right. And I'm also a very overly empathetic person, and I cannot turn that off. Um, so I just thought, wow, I am not the right person to do this because, like, I'm just going to cry the whole time, and I feel like I shouldn't be able to do that because it's not happening to me.
Hmm.
But, I got in there. I was absolutely petrified. Like, I've never done anything like this before. I can't mess this up. I need to make sure, like, everything is perfect. And, you can't reshoot these. So
Get it
I'm
right.
just, going over different settings, and it's 3 a.m. It's pitch black, dark. I mean, you have horrible hospital lighting, and I'm just thinking, oh God, like, yeah, I can't mess these up. And I go in there, and it was an experience that I cannot even explain. It was devastating to, and if I get emotional, I'm so sorry.
No, that is that is just fine. That is just fine.
It really was the most devastating and beautiful experience.
At the same time.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was obviously just awful having to be a stranger first because you don't have that familiar God, sorry, I'm trying not to cry.
No.
You're unfamiliar with this person,
Sure.
right? So it's not like you can just go up and hug them and not freak them out or anything.
Well, and it's such a raw, intimate event anyways.
It is. It's very intimate, very, very intimate, and you're sharing like one of the worst moments of your entire life with someone who you don't even know.
Yeah.
And so, and it might have just been the family. You know, maybe I just lucked out and got someone who was just like her, you know?
Yeah.
But she was just, you know, I learned a lot about how, like, kind of the procedures and how the different kind of psychological effects that are happening in her mind when she's trying to understand that her baby is not going home with her.
Yeah.
And he's not breathing. And, you know, I'm watching in real time with a camera
Documenting it.
how she is just, I mean, she was having panic attacks over him being cold.
Mm.
She was having panic attacks over, and she's just like, he doesn't look comfortable. He needs to look more comfortable. Like, he's not comfortable like that. Can you put him like this? And, you know, just fixing him up, and like they dressed him up, and it was beautiful. They have people that make, you know, little tiny bitty hats and little dresses and things that volunteer and donate these things. And I thought that was amazing. And so they had them all dressed up, and it was beautiful. But I just did not know I was going to watch her forget in real time that her baby is not alive, and then struggle with seeing signs of him not being alive, just like in real time. It was insane to be there, and it was also so easy. I mean, it was hard to watch, but it was so easy to just grieve with her.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I told her how beautiful he was. You know, we took all these pictures, and we talked about whose nose does he have, and all of these things. And it was just, I mean, it's going to be imprinted into my brain forever.
I'm sure it will.
And I went home immediately at like 5 a.m. I edited all the photos as like faster than I've ever done anything in my life. And I returned them to her the next day. And I still get messages from her just thanking me. And, you know, I think that it helped her grief more than anything else could have.
How long ago was this?
It really wasn't that long ago. I want to say it was probably about 6 to 8 months ago.
Okay. So still very fresh.
Yes, still very fresh. So it's, I don't talk about it a lot, obviously, but yeah, that was the experience that kind of kicked off everything for me. I've, again, personally, never had, you know, a family member with terminal cancer. I've never had a family member on hospice. I've never had a stillbirth. I've never lost a baby in that sense. And so I don't know why or how I fell into this thing, but afterwards, word of mouth just kind of traveled, and people reached out to me saying, you know, we have a stillborn. Would you be open to photographing us? We heard you did this for so-and-so. And so I just kind of went from there, and then it escalated into different types. So, you know, I did like a grandmother with her family while she had home hospice. I did, you know, the photo session that of the woman with terminal cancer with her daughters that went viral. And that's how you found me. So,
so did you feel underqualified, underprepared to do this?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I can imagine.
Like, no doubt about it.
I can imagine. But yet you are prepared because you're human. Right?
Right.
That raw connection is a very human thing.
Yes. That's why I say, like, it was so difficult, and still is, you know, to go through something like that with someone. But it was also the easiest thing. Like, it was just so humanly instinctual to just And, I found out like the things that I was saying and doing are exact protocol of what you're supposed to do in a situation like that. And it was just so easy to, like, it was just natural to comfort her in the ways that I knew she needed to hear or I knew she needed to see.
Almost divinely guided.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea how else I would get here. I truly, if you would have told me that bereavement photography was going to be my niche, I would be like, you're lying.
Yeah. Yeah. And no formal like counseling or death doula training or anything like that that would have given you any preparation for this, really.
No.
No.
I mean, I have my own personal trauma. I've been through all kinds of things in my life, and I've been in therapy my entire life as well. But yeah, there's no training on this, and I really had no idea what to expect.
And has it been important for you to get any sort of support for yourself, therapy-wise or other, since having done this first session?
100%, yes. I think I have, I hear a lot of people from that post that went viral. They've said, people asked me to do this, and I said, I'm so sorry I can't do it because I'm a crybaby or I'm just too emotional for things like this. And I just thought there was no way I could do this, but now I'm seeing this and I think, oh, if you're emotional, then I could also do this if you did it. And I truly think, like I said before, if you would have told me I was going to do this, I would be like, absolutely not. Like, this is not something I am interested in. But I think that people like me are actually the perfect people for stuff like this.
People like you in what sense?
In the sense of, that would be too difficult for me to do. Emotionally, like I would feel too much in that moment, or I would cry and feel guilty, because that was what I was really concerned about. I didn't want her to be like, why are you crying? Like,
and did she?
it's
At
my
any
baby.
Point? Did she respond to your emotions negatively?
No, she didn't respond to anything negatively. In fact, every single session that I have done, I've cried because it's emotional,
Yep.
And every single person was able to look me in my eyes and thank me for grieving with them.
Yeah. Yep, I understand
and I just think that's beautiful. I have a completely different outlook on what something like this would mean now than I did prior. I have more of an understanding that it's really not, you are enduring a trauma with someone during this process, 100%.
Yep.
But you're also able to connect with someone. It really is just connection. It's human connection. And it is so healing and fulfilling. Like, it's so profound to see that you were able to do something or give something tangible to someone
in that moment where no one else is there.
Yeah. And she's told me a million times, like, this is a gift that only you could give me. Nobody could have done it the way that you did it.
Yeah.
Nobody could have given me this. Like, this is absolutely priceless.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. And I think that, now I'm starting the nonprofit now, because now that I've experienced this in different ways, like I said, hospice and cancer and the birthing unit, all of these places should have someone like me there.
Yeah.
Mental health wise, that is so necessary.
Well, it's very interesting. I've been a paramedic for nearly 20 years. And I say gift because it really, like you've experienced, this is a gift to be with somebody in their most vulnerable time. And I've had the gift of being with people in all sorts of stages of dying, whether it's traumatic or expected, young, old, the gamut of it. And I did my death doula training just over a year and a half ago. And I wish I had had it as part of my training when I was becoming a paramedic, because probably 5 or 6 years ago, my partner and I went on a call to transfer somebody from home to hospice. And she was in her early 40s and she had breast cancer and it was terminal. And as we were, excuse me, at the home, it was a beautiful home and, they had several kids and you could tell by that by all the pictures on the walls. And I stepped out of the box and I said to the husband, I know this is a very delicate question and I really hope I don't upset you by asking, but I wondered if you had any pictures of you and your wife in these last final days. And he looked at me and he said, no. And I said, would you like some? And then he looked at me. He's like, what do you mean? I said, well, we have smartphones. We have cameras. If you have a fancy camera, we'll use a fancy camera. But, just some pictures of you and your wife, in your wedding bed, with your hands held, with your rings together. I said, because when she's gone, you won't have any of that anymore. There is no opportunity anymore. And if there's a chance now for us to take some of those pictures for you, I would like to do that if you want me to. And so they talked about it and they agreed. And we just instantly made this mini photo shoot and propped them up with pillows and, all the things that we could do to make her comfortable and him comfortable. And I don't have the experience of being a photographer like you do, but it was just in that moment, just such a raw, intimate opportunity to be with somebody. And I cried the whole time. Like, you are absolutely human. And I've been on calls where people have passed or they've already been, gone when I got there and the family's upset. And I've cried. Like, I am a trained professional, but I'm also human. And that raw grief is sometimes just so powerful. And you're there sharing it with them and nobody else is there with them. So when you question whether or not you were professional in your crying, absolutely. Like, I see there's nothing that you can be condemned for that for. And I've thought of that family often over the last few years, wondering how did they receive those pictures afterwards when we'd finished transferring her to the hospice and she passed away a few days later. I saw her obituary in the paper, so I knew it had happened. And I wondered, like, how did he feel when he had those pictures afterwards? And of course, I didn't reach out because that's just, you can't do that when you're in that setting. But I was very happy just now to hear when you said she was so grateful for those pictures, because it made my anguish, and it really was paled in comparison to what their family went through, but it made it worth it. And so when you're doing that, I just think, wow.
Yeah, it has more of an impact than you could even imagine.
Yeah.
She doesn't, not just her, more than one family has thanked me, and they just do it over and over again. And they're like, I'm so sorry that I just keep saying the same thing, but you have no idea what you've done. Like,
it's momentous. It really is.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, it is the only tangible thing that they have of moments like that. And I think what you did was amazing. I think if anything, it would be amazing if I started this nonprofit and it went huge and I was able to provide, hospitals and hospice centers and everything, and have a bunch of trained photographers who know what they're doing and, train them like a death doula would, so you understand what's happening and how to respond and how to react and all of those things. But I think even if you don't have the chance to do that, just having your iPhone like you did it does more than you could even know unless you've been through it,
Well, I saw the pictures that you had of that mom and her two daughters. And I thought, how do you have that conversation with her from a photographer client perspective of, I'd like to put your pictures on Facebook. I would like to share what we've done here. And, is that a tricky conversation to have with people, or are most people very receptive?
So, back to the stillbirth, when I did that one, I had absolutely no idea that anything would be shared or posted or anything like that. And she actually encouraged me to make a post. So if you go back far enough on my Facebook, you'll find those photos. And she was just like, everyone needs to know that you can do this.
Right.
Everyone who's in this position needs to know that this exists and that there are people that will do this for them. Like, I want you to tell everyone. And so I did end up making a post about that for her.
How was that received by your followers? Your first post like that?
It was received, I think, really well. Everyone was very kind, and, you know, it's always nice to be able to make a post and then have people feel what you felt.
Yeah, resonate.
Yes, like really be able to relate to all of the emotions and resonate with what's going on. And they all were just saying such sweet things about the baby. And, you know, I didn't post him directly.
Yeah.
But, you know, just saying, oh, he's a beautiful angel, and like everybody's sending love and prayer to this family. And I just think that was really healing for them as well in their own sense. Just
I could imagine.
Yeah. And so all of the other ones, I had not even said, can I post this? You know? And then Rebecca, which is the mom with cancer.
Yeah.
With her daughters that I took. So I'm actually friends with her oldest daughter, so the blonde in the picture.
Okay.
And so she was the one that told me, you know, my mom got her diagnosis back today. And it's not looking great. And so I'd already kind of mentioned to her, like, hey, if you want photos with your mom, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
And things just started kind of getting progressively worse. And then she said, you know, they gave her a diagnosis. She has to do, which I don't want to share all of that. But
no, that's
not
fine.
my business. But,
yep.
But, you know, things are getting worse, and she, you know, has to do really aggressive treatment to try to stay here as long as she can, essentially. And so I was just like, when is she starting treatment? Do you think, you know, have you asked her, does she want to take photos? Is that something that she's comfortable with? You know, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And she talked to her mom was very open to doing it. And she was really receptive to everything. And I also, they had already said, like, you can post these.
Mm-hmm.
I asked her, are you comfortable with me sharing your story? And there were parts that she didn't want shared.
Fair enough.
So I just shared whatever she was comfortable sharing. And she just said, you know, I think that these are beautiful. I feel beautiful in them. Absolutely, you can share these. And you can share my diagnosis because I've already told everyone who needs to know.
Right.
And, you know, she's already had photos done, and she shared her journey on her own Facebook. So she was comfortable with me sharing parts of it as well. And so I think that's the difference, is most of the bereavement sessions are not something that you post and advertise for. And so it's not something that is spoken about a lot. It's not something that people just know about because it's not popularized necessarily. And I think that's really special that I was able to do that with two of them. You know, that's not very common. So I just got really lucky and had people who were comfortable sharing that. And, you know, I do them for free because how are you going to look at someone and be like, okay, I can do these pictures for you while you have the worst time of your life, and here's my bill. Like, I could never do that in good consciousness. But, you know, I did Rebecca's makeup. I have a client closet, so I made sure, like, we had, like, a little fashion show, and she tried on what she wanted and picked out the outfit that she wanted, and I helped style everybody, and I had a vision, and then they just were like, yes, absolutely, I love that. And then, you know, it just all kind of worked how it was supposed to work, I think. So I really just got lucky. I don't ask people, you know, can I post these?
Right.
I just got lucky and had two people say, like, you can post these, by the way.
Well, I was thinking earlier when we started talking, and you were saying how you did wedding makeup. Has there been any thoughts given to doing makeup on the people that have already passed and doing photos at, let's say, the funeral home or things like that?
I'm not sure.
Because I know the funeral homes have their own people that do makeup,
Yes.
but I just wondered if
My
that's a thing.
my aunt actually works on she works at a funeral home, and she actually prepares people for like their viewing and things like that. And I think that there are people that do funeral photography. I'm not sure that I would be super
Drawn to that?
excited to do something like that. Funerals are really difficult. I mean, all of this is really difficult for me, just because I'm so open to feeling and grieving and having all of these things with the family. And so it does take a toll, and there is a lot of self-care that has to happen post-session,
Sure. What have you found to be the most
but
helpful for you?
like for my mental health.
Yeah, for your own self-care.
I mean, absolutely understanding yourself, I would say, understanding your own tendencies, having a good support system so that they also see you and they can see you're struggling when you're trying really hard not to struggle. Therapy, 100% therapy. And just making time to do the things that are healing for you, whatever that may be. For me, a lot of death is centered around like childhood trauma for me. So I try to do things that are kind of inner child healing when I'm feeling triggered about something like that. Yeah. So very nurturing, very something like I'm not really, I take showers a lot, but whenever I'm feeling down, I take a bubble bath.
Water meditation.
And I make it all fancy.
Yep.
Yeah. I just do, or, anything, coloring, watching Disney movies, just something that is going to be inner child healing. Eating snacks that are, something that I used to love when I was little or something, just really making time for my own mental health, I think, and taking breaks from social media, I think is one of the things. Like I'll have weeks where I'm just kind of not posting anything, and then I come back, and that's not necessarily great for business, but you got to do it.
You got to put yourself first, though. You're no good to your business if you're not in good shape.
Exactly. And I don't want to not be in good shape to be able to help the next person, And I also do other photography constantly, so, I have to be in some kind of shape to be professional with everyone else too. So yeah, I would just say absolute therapy, doing something that you love. I love reading. So sometimes I just have to take a social media break and then read like a 7-book series and just devour it and just rot, You just
dive
have
into
to do
the
that
paper.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Has there been anybody very outspoken in a negative way? Like people that think it's, not good in some way? Like have you had hate mail or things like that at all?
Thankfully, no. I hope that doesn't give anyone ideas to do that because I will cry. But no, so far the reaction to everyone has been really great. A lot of people have said, I wish I would have done this. And to see this being done for someone else with a situation that was so similar to mine, this was actually really healing to look at and read about. And I think that's really cool. I think the only negative that I've had at all is just the people who are going through it. They want to be remembered in like the prettiest, healthiest, liveliest way. And sometimes that's already past,
Yeah.
And so they're more self-conscious and they're more like, I don't want them to remember me like this. I don't want them to this to be the last photos I have with them. But, you know, sometimes you have to meet them where they are, whatever they're able to do. And it's not always them meeting themselves where they are. And so I think that's kind of the only negative that I've experienced so far. And it's just, I think them kind of going through an ego death before the final death, you know. Those pictures, regardless if you have makeup or if your hair is gone or if you're skinnier than you want to be, or, you know, you're not going to look the way you want. You can't frolic in the field of flowers like Rebecca did.
Yeah.
And that's really unfortunate, but it doesn't devalue the gift that it is to your family.
Yes.
So I think it's hard for me to say that to someone, because I'm not going to tell you what to do. You know, I'm not going to argue with you about anything. This is your journey, you know, so you should do it however you want. But I think some people, because it's not something that's so common, they have a hard time kind of understanding, why do you want this? You know, why do you want me to look like this in pictures? Like, I don't understand, you know, but I hope that changes. I hope that more people than not have been more inspired to do things like this, or to have their photos taken, or, you know, open up or go volunteer and do work like this. And I think that's just so cool.
Well, it kind of speaks to the value of your role as a photographer, period. Like these moments that people have in their life, whether it's birth, you know, graduation, wedding, you know, those sorts of things, they're all documented. And it's, as somebody actually just said to me a few months ago, I think you're a documentarian. And I'd never heard that term before. And I said, what do you mean? She says, you take pictures of everything. And I'm like, that's because there is so much beauty in everything, and it just stuns me sometimes. And I just want to catch what I can catch, because it's just like, it takes my breath away. And she says, yeah, but you take pictures of your food. I'm like, yeah, but sometimes that food is art.
Sometimes that is the most beautiful thing I've seen all day.
Yeah. And so when I think of, you know, all of these opportunities that people have to document their life, why wouldn't you also include this as part of your memoirs? Or the word is escaping me right now, but it's not normalized. It's not talked about. Death is not something that we do well.
Death is not fun.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of healing that's needed prior to a good death or an easy death.
And I mean, if you want to just be completely frank, when you think about it, you know, the day of your birth is one of the most important days of your life, obviously.
Yep.
The day of your, you know, if you have children, if you get married, if you graduate high school or college, or, you know, whatever, all of those days
Family
are
vacation.
part of the biggest days of your life.
Yeah.
But death is also one of the biggest things of your life.
Big chapter. Yep.
It's a huge event in your life that happens, and the way it happens, the people you have around you, what you leave behind for them, all of that is very important.
And if you're one of those left behind. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think it's very important. And I have even had, unfortunately, I've had people who I take their last photos and we had no idea, you know? So I think you don't have to have a terminal illness to do that. I think taking photos, taking videos, you know, recording your voice, you know, things like that, I think it's all very important for you to be able to leave to your family. And I think even if you aren't expecting to go anytime soon, I think prioritizing documenting yourself is very important.
Yeah. I have a good friend whose husband passed 3 years ago, and they had family pictures taken 4 days, I think, before he died. not knowing,
Wow.
not knowing that that was going to be it. And they are the most stunning pictures ever. And I wonder, are they that good because they're just that good? Or are they that good because they are so powerful because they are the last pictures ever taken of their family together?
Right.
And I just go,
It
whoa.
could be both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be
I
both.
mean, there's beauty in that, and what you leave behind. There is.
So how do you think people could do death and conversations like this better? Like, what would be a good way to bring this up at, a Friday night, friends over for supper, and you're just talking about it, or you're sitting at the lunchroom with your colleagues? Like, how do people talk about these things with more grace or more willingness or more vulnerability? Like, I don't know. And I don't expect you to have the magic wisdom here, but I thought, you know what, this is something that we just don't do well. And I think it's because people don't have the healing in their relationships with the people that are dying around them. And it's difficult to do that healing and difficult to have
Mm-hmm.
those conversations because it's emotional. And maybe you have to admit that you were, a jackass at some point and, you did wrong by them. And how do you ask them to forgive you? And how do you forgive yourself? And just all of that conversation is just so tangled, like fishing line. And how do we
Mm-hmm.
untangle that?
I mean, there's not going to be a direct answer that can blanket answer for every individual, right? But, each person has their own intricate issues with it. I think the best way is just opening up a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
opening up an opportunity for them to understand, hey, this is a conversation that I'm interested in. This is a topic I'm interested in discussing. And if you're comfortable, I just wanted you to know that this is a safe space to
Mm-hmm.
do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a safe person to talk to about that. I don't think that, pressuring anybody would be good. And I was nervous because, like you said, like, has anybody been negative um, about the whole process? And, going viral is scary
Yeah,
because,
I imagine.
there's trolls and all kinds of people, and not everyone's kind. And some people, I think their hobbies are just trolling people and hurting their feelings for no reason. And
Yeah.
I don't want to be the person that gets trolled because I'll cry.
Yeah.
But
How has your
um,
husband been with this? Have people brought this up about what you're doing with him, and how has he responded to that?
yeah, he jokes all the time, and he's like, "Oh, my wife is famous," and I'm like, "Oh, please, like I'm not famous. And it wasn't even my face. Like they don't even know what I look like. It was somebody else's." But no, he's very proud, and he thinks it's wonderful. And he's helping me try to figure out the different details and stuff to build the nonprofit because he thinks that
Mm-hmm.
I should do something like that and that it would be really beneficial to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I think it's wonderful what you've done. I think it's wonderful what you're building. The whole thing just, with my, limited experience with that one time that I did it for somebody,
hmm
it's a great thing that you're doing, and I think it's awesome. Yeah, I,
thank
I
you.
really do.
It feels really strange to have people virally commend me for that because I just feel like it's something normal, like not, I mean, I understand that it's very impactful for the families directly. Um, but I just feel like I was doing something normal, like something that you're just supposed to do
Mm-hmm.
for people.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you did. It was just a knee jerk reaction, like, oh my God, do you
Let's
have
do this.
photos together
Yeah.
before she died? Yeah, it's just a knee jerk reaction of something when you see someone struggling. I have this equipment, I have this skill set, I can make time to do this if I don't have the time. And like, let me do this for you. Let me
Yeah.
help you. I think, it was just a knee jerk reaction, just like yours was. And I feel kind of strange that thousands of people think I'm really nice. So, I just think I was just being a human, and
Yep. No big deal.
I I probably, didn't do anything differently than what you would have done if you would have been in my shoes and had the same skill set. So, you know,
Has anybody asked you, though, to do any sort of like real off the wall bereavement photos? Like stuff that would be probably even offensive to other people? And I'm not saying like, gross, terrible things, but like some people have really dark senses of humor and they find comfort in being ironic about things.
thankfully, I have not run into that yet.
Okay. You say thankfully, like that wouldn't be something you would really be drawn to.
I probably wouldn't be drawn to something like that. I am more of, that's just not my vibe.
Yeah, not your thing.
I'm more of like an emotional storytelling, documenting type photographer. And
Yeah.
so, if they wanted to be kind of crude,
They'll
I
go
don't
somewhere
know
else.
that I would, yeah,
Yeah.
I just don't know that I would be the best fit for that.
Yeah.
Probably because I would be offended.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be like, I don't want to tell you how to grieve or how to, do whatever. I'm not in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Well, the reason I
but
ask is
yeah, I don't think I would be.
I was saying to somebody that I was going to be meeting with you today and having this conversation, and they said, "Well, what do you mean like bereavement photos? Like these people know they're going to die, and she's going to take pictures. Like do they get props like a funeral casket, and they pretend like they're already dead, and they take a picture like
Oh,
jokingly, and that sort of thing?" I said, "I don't think so, but
no.
different strokes for different folks. Like
Yeah.
that's
I
not your
haven't had
jam, though."
anybody. No, I don't think that I would. I mean, I don't know. If they asked me to, and it was very I don't know. It would have to be very circumstantial for
Yeah,
me to be like, yeah, that sounds like fun.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just yeah, I don't know if I would be able to do that and be comfortable. And
yeah.
I think that these are difficult enough to be a part of that I don't think I would be interested in doing that. But I'm sure that there is someone out there
Yep,
that would love that.
yep.
It's just not me.
Well, I thought, judging by the pictures that I had seen that you had done, it probably wasn't the case. But sometimes
Yeah.
people maybe take those pictures and just say we want them for us and don't share them, and maybe it is something, but it would certainly be an extra niche market.
It would be.
Yeah,
It would be very niche.
yeah. Have you got a name for your nonprofit picked out yet, or not yet, or
So
you
it's
don't want to
not
release that yet?
officially named, but I am going to kind of play off of my business photography. So it will probably be something along the lines of like rose-colored lens foundation
Right,
or something like that.
right.
But yeah, it's not officially named because you have to raise all the funds for the fees before you can file and then claim that name and stuff. So
Yeah, it's quite a process.
hopefully
I
it will be
imagine.
available. Yeah, it's a crazy process. I had no idea. People who start nonprofits are built different. You guys are able to do a lot of crazy stuff. It is a lot of rules and a lot of, I don't know, my brain is still trying to digest all of the information that it's learned in the past week, and I'm just mush right now, really. But
How long do you think it'll take to get sorted out?
so the actual process after I have the funds to be able to pay for the legal fees and all of that, I think it would be maybe a month
Mm-hmm.
to get everything filed. And then you have to wait and hear back from like the IRS to approve everything and stuff. And so I think that's the most time consuming part is just waiting on government to do government stuff.
Yes, I can imagine that.
Yes.
Well, in the meantime and in between time, as you're going through this journey, I think it's wonderful. I think it's awesome that you're taking care of yourself because, like you say, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And
Right.
it's a beautiful, beautiful thing you're doing, and I wholeheartedly support it. And I love the fact that something like this is yet another way to bring healing to death and healing to those left behind and opening those conversations up. Like, I just think it's marvelous.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Any last words that you have that I can help with you with this?
I don't think so. I guess if you just, wanted to share my page, and then everybody kind of keep an eye out for the nonprofit that's coming soon.
Okay.
They could, donate or share it, or, become a board member if they wanted to.
Okay.
Whatever.
What would be involved in that? Do you know? Or is that too big of a question to
For
try and narrow down?
board members?
Yes.
Or to be a... So I still almost know nothing about what I'm talking about, but, board members would be somebody who would be kind of in the realm of what I'm doing. So they would be educated on death, or they could be very specifically related to hospitals.
Would they need to be in the Oklahoma area?
I don't think so. They would just have to be available to have meetings, like board meetings. So it would be, Zoom or whatever.
Could they be outside of the United States?
I also think that would be fine as long as they were able to make board meetings.
Okay.
I did ask, like, my lawyer and everything, and they said that they didn't think that there was an issue just as long as they were able to make meetings.
Right.
So,
okay. Well, let's put
and
it
it would
out
be
there.
really cool if I had meetings with or board members from maybe Canada or other places, and then maybe we could expand over there or something, and then bring Canada a little piece of this.
How much time commitment would be required?
I'm not sure. I think it kind of just depends on how big things get.
Mm-hmm.
It might be kind of time consuming when we're trying to do, if let's say it does get big enough to be able to expand and things like that, or if we get big enough to host kind of charity events and things like that, then it might be a little bit demanding, but it could be cool. I don't know. Maybe it'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, I think this is great. So, you know what? If there's people out there that are listening that might have an interest in this, reach out either to myself or to Kelly and Rose Colored Lens Photography, and let's see if we can help build this, because I think it's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to following your progress.
Thank you.
And thanks to all the listeners for joining us today. There's lots of other episodes on the podcast. It's a matter of life and death. Thanks so much.